Welcome back to Crazy for Cars. In this episode today, I am going to get the car up in the air and I am going to change the oil in the differential and in the manual transmission. So stay tuned, and the first thing I'll be doing is getting her up in the air and getting at it. Well, with the help of the boss lady, I got the ramps out and we drove the front end up on the ramps. Now I'm going to jack up the back end and block that off, and I will start draining some fluids. As you can see, I got the back end of the car also up on some wood ramps I built quite a few years ago for some other reason, but they come in really handy. And I do have jack stands underneath there. And to make sure on the pinch points that I didn't wreck anything, I had purchased these pucks from Amazon one year. They were fairly cheap and they do a really good job, and that way you make sure they sit on the pinch welds and nothing gets wrecked underneath. Right here at the bottom is where the drain plug is located on the rear end. You're going to just use an extension and a 3/8 ratchet to break that loose and drain it. And the fill plug is right over up here on this side. And they say it's a good idea to crack that loose and make sure it's going to come loose before you drain all the oil out of the diff and realize you can't get it out, and then you're stuck and can't drive the car. So I am going to break that loose up there, and then I will break this loose and drain the oil out of the rear end and get back to you. Now here's always the fun part. I've broken it loose, but let's see if I can get this out of here without making a big mess and getting oil all over my hands. I'm usually not too good at this, but let's see how I do. Oh, and that's not bad at all. Just a few little gurgles. And now, as that's draining, I will remove the top plug here. And that should help it drain a little bit quicker once I get that out of the way. There we go. That's a lot better. I will let this drain and continue on in a bit. And here's the bottom drain plug I pulled out of the rear end. And as you can see, there is some ugly black stuff stuck to the end of it. I got roughly 10,000 kilometers on this. So yeah, it did have a little bit of junk in it, so I will be happy to have that fresh oil in it. Now that the rear end has been drained, I am going to be filling it with some original AC Delco Dexron limited slip 7590 oil. And to help put it in there and make it a lot easier, I bought two of these little pumps from Amazon. You just screw them into the top, a little rubber hose goes into the fill hole, and pump it till she's full. I think it was a good investment. I think it was a little over 20 bucks for the two off Amazon. So I will fill this up and continue. Well, there you go. I filled it up. The pump works great. And it took roughly right down to the 1.6 quarts it said it was going to take to fill it. I tightened up the top plug. You don't have to go too crazy on these. Just tight is good. Cleaned up any oil I spilled, and the rear end is done. Now to move on to the transmission. And now to get underneath where the tranny was, I had to lift the car a little bit more in the front. So I lifted up the other stand and put a jack stand underneath it with one of those blocks into a pinch joint. And I lifted up this side with a block, and I also got a jack stand underneath this side. So it's nice and secure. Can never be safe enough. I'm going to crawl underneath and start draining the fluid. You're going to fill the oil right up here in this plug right here. And to get it out, there ain't very much room unless that line's in the way. So what I did is I cut off a 3/8 extension, put it into the plug, and then you still leave enough room on the bottom of it to use a 10mm wrench, and it turned right out. And to drain the transmission, I am going to use the temperature sensor right here and let the oil flow out of there. So you unclip it and just use a 22mm wrench and turn it out. Cut. I'm going to be draining the oil out of the temperature sending unit here. It's the easiest place to do it. So you just unclip the wire and use a 22mm wrench and turn it out and drain. After the oil is finished draining, I installed the temperature sensor back in and clipped the wire back up. Now I'm going to get the oil and start filling up the oil. And the oil I'm going to be installing today is Royal Purple Synco Mesh. I did a lot of reading and research online and on forums, and this stuff comes highly recommended. So that is what I'm going to be using, 4 quarts. After I got all the oil out, I put the bottom drain plug back in. Then I added roughly 4 quarts, well 3.6 to 3.8 quarts of oil till the fluid ran out of the top fill hole. Then I removed roughly 280 millimeters of oil from there, because when you fill it, they want it to be down about 1/4 inch from the inside of that, down from that plug hole from the inside. So that was roughly the amount of oil I had to remove, and she's all back together and buttoned up. And as you might notice, it is still back up in the air. I did receive a parcel today, so for my next video, I will be installing a new exhaust system. I went with a MBRP 3-inch Axleback exhaust. I went with the black because I figured it'll look better with the car all blacked out. Black tips. So this here is going to be my next install. So please stay tuned, and that video should be done here in about 2-3 days. I will be installing it as I have time. Once again, thank you very much for watching. And if you like, subscribe, and have yourself a great day. Bye.